doing today? I hope you're staying safe. Okay, my name is Mrs. Naomi Basi, and I'll be taking you on the subject on the board, which is agricultural science. Again, agricultural science. And we are going to be looking at the topic tuber crops. Again, tuber crops. You might be asking yourself, what are tuber crops? What are tuber crops? Okay, I want us to look at this. What is this? We have been eating it every day. Mommy and daddy have been preparing this for us every day. This is called a yam. It is called a yam. Okay, another tuber crop we have here is cassava. This is a cassava. This is cassava. Okay. Another one we have here is potato. Sweet potato. Okay, we still have other tuber crops that we'll mention later. But before we mention them, I would like us to look at the definition of tuber crops. I would like us to look at the definition of tuber crops. We say tuber crops are fleshy on the ground stem or root crops. Let's take it again. Tuber crops are fleshly on the ground stem or root crops. How is it fleshly on the ground? Because it grows under the soil. It grows under the soil. When you're walking around, there's no way you see tuber crops and say, this is tuber crops. This is tuber crop. Let me cut it. Then no, you don't do that. You have to dig the ground to get the tuber crops. And here we say that they are usually composed of starch. Most tuber crops are called starchy food. Most of them are called starchy food. Okay, now let's look at the definition of tuber crops. Still on tuber crops, we say tuber crops are fleshy on the ground stem or root crops. They are fleshy on the ground stem or root crops. Okay, we say that tuber crops are fleshy on the ground stem or root crops. They are specialized storage stem or root of certain plants. That means that tuber crops grows either on the stem or on the root of their crops. They grow on the stem or on the root of their crops. And here we say tuber crops are usually short and thickened and typically grows below the soil. Just as I said earlier, tuber crops, you cannot just see them and pluck them. You have to dig the soil just to get the tuber crops. Okay, the next thing we are going to be looking at is the classification of tuber crops. The classification of tuber crops. We say tuber crops are classified into two groups. Tuber crops are classified into two groups. And the first one, we have the stem tubers, and the second one is the root tubers. The stem tubers and the root tubers. Okay, let's take it down. We said the classification of tuber crops. Just as I said earlier, we have the stem tubers and the root tubers. The stem tubers and the root tubers. Don't forget that we said that tuber crops grows under the stem or the root. Okay, next we are going to be looking at some of the examples of tuber crops. Some of the examples of tuber crops. Number one, we have it as yam. One of the examples of tuber crops, we have it as yam. Yam. Okay. The next one, we have potato. Potato. Okay. Number three, we have cassava. Number 3, we have cassava. Okay, others that we cannot see here, we have cocoyam. Cocoyam. Okay, number 4, we have Irish potato. Irish potato. Okay, number 5, we have water yam. We have water yam. Okay, let's take them down. Oh, okay, we said some of the examples of tuber crops are, number 1, we mentioned yam. Number 1, we mentioned yam. And the second one is sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes. The third one is Irish potatoes. Irish potatoes. The fourth one is cocoyam. Cocoyam. The fifth one is carrots. Carrot. Last but not the least, we have cassava, and the rest of them. We have so many tuber crops that are not mentioned here. Okay, the next thing we are going to be looking at is the uses of tuber crops. The uses of tuber crops. We say tuber crops are used as food for man and animals. They are used as food for man and animals consumption. Yes, mommy prepares potato. We do eat potato, isn't it? We do eat yam. And then the peels of this yam, this potato, this cassava serves as food for animals. The peels of this yam, potato, and the rest of it serves as food for animals. Okay, the next one is it is used for livestock. Tuber crops are used. Okay, we say that tuber crops are used in feeding our livestock. Just as I said earlier, our animals eat our cassava peels. They even went as far as eating the cassava itself. Yes, animals like goats. When you keep your cassava, goats can eat them. If you keep them carelessly, they can eat your cassava. They can even eat your yam. That is why we said tuber crops are used in feeding our livestock. Okay, the next one we are going to be looking at is tuber crops are used for making starch. Tuber crops are used for making starch. Example, cassava. We use cassava in producing the starch that we use in keeping our clothes straight. Okay, last but not the least we are going to be talking about today is the carrot. We say tuber crops are used for beautification. Tuber crops are used for beautification. Example, the oil you get from your carrot, we use it to rub as cream and it beautifies our body. Okay, let us take it down. Here are some of the uses of tuber crops. We say tuber crops are used as food for human consumption. Tuber crops are used as food for human consumption. We all eat tuber crops, yes, and we make use of it. Okay, number 2 said they are used for our livestock. Example, the cassava and yam peels can be used to feed pigs and goats. Okay. The third one says tuber crops are used for making starch. Example, cassava. Just as I said earlier, we use cassava. Okay, we say tuber crops are used for making starch. Example, cassava. Yes, we get our starch from cassava. Okay, last but not the least for today, we say here that tuber crops, example carrots, are used for beautification. The oil we get from carrots we use to beautify, we use and rub on our skin, and it beautifies our skin. I hope with this you'll be able to tell me what tuber crops are all about. Here we say tuber crops are fleshy underground stem or root crops. They are specialized storage stem or root of certain plants because they get their plants, they get their food from either the stem or the root of a certain plant. Okay, we say tuber crops are usually short and thickened and typically grows below the soil. You have to dig the soil. It is under the soil. You have to dig the soil just to get your crops. Okay, here we have the classification of tuber crops. We classify tuber crops under the stem tubers and the root tubers. We have it here. We have the stem tubers and we have the root tubers. Okay, we moved into some of the examples of tuber crops, and we mentioned here number one here we have yam. Okay, the next one we have sweet potatoes. The third one we have Irish potato. These are food that we have been eating. The next one here we have cocoyam. The next one we have carrot. Last but not the least, we mention our cassava and other tuber crops that are not listed down here. And then we moved to the uses of tuber crops, and we say tuber crops are used as food for human consumption. Human consume, we the human beings, we consume tuber crops. Okay, the next one we say they are used for our livestock. Example, cassava and yam peels can be used to feed pigs and goats. Okay, the third one here we talk about tuber crops are used for making starch. Our cassava, we use our cassava to make starch. Then last but not the least, we talk about our tuber crops being used for beautification. The oil we get from carrot, we rub it as a cream and it beautifies us. I hope with this we'll be able to tell us, you'll be able to tell us more about tuber crops. You'll be able to define it. You know what tuber crops is. When you see it on the road, you say, mommy, this is tuber crops that are, this is a tuber crop, or these are tuber crops that we were taught online. Okay, now I want you to do this home activity for me and submit it to the school. Okay, here is your homework, your home activity. Number one says, what are tuber crops? What are tuber crops? Number two says, list 5 examples of tuber crops. The 5 examples of tuber crops. The third one here says, state 3 uses of tuber crops. Okay, this so far I hope you'll be able to tell me what tuber crops are, some of the examples and the uses of tuber crops. Do it and submit it to the school. Continue to stay safe. Be a good child until we meet again next week. Bye bye.